Good morning. It is November 17th, coming to you live from Seoul. We start with the stories making the headlines at this hour. On his second day at the APEC summit, President Yoon sat down with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida for the seventh time this year amid improving relations. The president says all government channels between Seoul and Tokyo are now fully restored. Israeli forces say they found an entrance to a Hamas tunnel at the Al-Shifa hospital and a body of a hostage near the site, backing their claims that Hamas is using the hospital as cover. This comes as they advance into the next phase of the ground invasion. The South Korean national football team kicked off their 2026 World Cup qualifying campaign with a 5-0 win over Singapore. We start with President Yoon Suk-yeol's second day at the APEC summit in San Francisco. The South Korean leader held diplomatic meetings with various world leaders, including with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, amid improving Seoul-Tokyo relations. Our top office correspondent Oh Soo-young joins us from San Francisco for the latest. Good afternoon to you, Soo-young.
And good morning to you, Kyung-eun.
Hello. So first of all, President Yoon Suk-yeol met with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida on Thursday morning there, and they're now expected to briefly meet with U.S. President Joe Biden. Tell us more about that.
Right. So as you said, Kyung-eun, President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida met on the sidelines of the APEC summit on Thursday morning here for about 35 minutes, according to South Korea's presidential office. As you said, the meeting demonstrates the budding friendship between the leaders, as well as the vast improvement in bilateral relations, which fell to a critical low in 2019 when the two leaders met. And Seoul and Tokyo's ties have been riddled with historical and territorial disputes as well, arising from Imperial Japan's colonization of Korea and Japan's wartime atrocities before and during World War II. President Yoon early this year set out a new future-oriented partnership with Japan amid common global challenges, including facing the neighbors, including a nuclear North Korea and global economic uncertainties.
올해 정상을 비롯한 각계 각급에서 교류가 활성화되고 정부 간 협의체가 복원돼서 양국 간 협력이 심화되고 있습니다. 상반기 안보정책협의회 경제안보 대화에 이어서 지난달 외교 차관 전략 대화까지 재개되면서 지난 3월 방일시 합의한 모든 정부 간 협의체가 이제 100% 복원이 됐습니다.
Prime Minister Kishida also noted that the two leaders had met for the 7th time this year, saying he felt reassured that Seoul and Tokyo were closely cooperating amid the rapidly changing geopolitical dynamics in the Middle East in particular. He added that the two countries could become partners in bolstering global cooperation, overcoming the forces of division and conflict in the world.
We have been initiating bilateral cooperation in diverse fields, including political relations, security, economy and culture. I hope to further develop this course of cooperation.
And building on their trilateral cooperation with the United States, South Korea's presidential office says Yoon and Kishida will briefly meet with President Joe Biden at the APEC leaders' photo session, coming together for the first time since their Camp David summit 3 months ago. Now the three leaders held a similar impromptu meeting during the G7 Hiroshima summit in May.
Right now, President Yoon is engaging with other world leaders at the APEC summit as South Korea looks to chair multilateral dialogue in 2025.
That's right. President Yoon held a bilateral summit with the leader of Peru, country which will assume the presidency of APEC next year in 2024. Now, the two leaders agreed to work closely together to ensure that APEC can contribute to prosperity and sustainable growth in the region. Also, marking the 60th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries this year, the two leaders reaffirmed that Korea and Peru are now comprehensive strategic partners who share core values and agreed to strengthen cooperation in various fields, including weapons, supply chains, development, and infrastructure. Yoon said that he hopes to further extend mineral cooperation in the future with Peru, a country which is rich in mineral resources such as copper, silver, and zinc. While President Dina Boluarte says he hopes to strengthen defense industry cooperation with Korea, which of course possesses high-tech military technology such as the KT-1B trainer aircraft and multiple support ships as well.
Right, he has had a very busy day, but there are more meetings to come, including the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or the IPEF summit.
That's right. President Yoon on Thursday is scheduled to attend the Summit of Indo-Pacific Economies as they attempt to finalize the framework to deepen cooperation on areas like supply chains, trade, climate and governance as well. Now, Yoon's office says that the South Korean leader will attend a meeting of the US-led framework, the so-called IPEF, during his 3-day stay in San Francisco on the sidelines of the APEC summit that's going on, of course. Now, amid Washington and Beijing's geopolitical rivalry in the Indo-Pacific region, the IPEF was launched in May last year, and South Korea, Japan, Australia, Thailand, and Vietnam, they're among the current 14 members who are striving for a connected, resilient, clean, and fair economy, 4 keywords that represent the pillars of the framework. Only Pillar 2 on supply chain cooperation has been finalized so far, with trade officials moving very quickly to conclude the other pillars around the time of the APEC summit. Other than that, President Yoon has various meetings with leaders of the 20 other APEC nations coming up. He just had a working lunch with them and a bilateral with the president of Chile. So I'll be keeping you updated on that too, of course.
All right, so thank you for your coverage.
My pleasure.
And on the sidelines of the APEC summit, there was a high-stakes summit between U.S. President Joe Biden and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. The two leaders reached agreements on resuming military communications and curbing illicit drugs, but they fell short of producing any meaningful breakthrough on Taiwan and trade issues. For more on the key takeaways from the summit, we're joined by Joel Atkinson, Professor of International Studies at Hanguk University of Foreign Studies. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Hello. Now, first of all, it is Xi Jinping's first visit to the United States in 6 years and his first meeting with Biden in a year. What has led to his visit at a critical time during his unprecedented third term in presidency and amid China's economic woes?
Well, that's really the big question. If only we could look inside Xi Jinping's head and see what he's thinking. But we do know that it's Xi's turn to visit the United States. Last time it was Trump visiting China back in 2017. Before that, and not long after Trump was elected, Xi came to the US. But since then, for whatever reasons, Beijing and Washington had not been able to agree on having Xi visit. So presumably, Xi has been unhappy that the Biden administration left Trump's tariffs in place and that Biden has imposed, those stringent controls on advanced semiconductor capabilities that have those military applications. He is no doubt displeased with the continued growing support for Taiwan as well. So even though none of that has really changed, Xi has decided to come. One major factor is the trouble the Chinese economy is in. Also, the Chinese public is not only unhappy with the state of the economy and how hard it is to find jobs, but also the hardline COVID restrictions they went through, and then the rapid and ill-prepared opening up. So it appears that he's ready to try and relieve some of that pressure from the US. And the fact that the APEC summit meeting is being held in the US provides a face-saving way to have that meeting in the US without making a special trip just for that. And then, of course, on the Biden side, the Biden administration is perhaps even more interested in reducing tensions, which have reached quite serious levels around Taiwan and in the South China Sea and so on. Also, Washington has a long list of things they hope to cooperate with China on, such as climate change, fentanyl, the opioid crisis, Russia and Ukraine, and now Israel, Hamas, and Iran.
Right, Professor. Now, though Biden labeled the summit as, quote, productive, the two leaders failed to narrow their differences on the issue of Taiwan. What were the major sticking points?
Well, Biden reiterated the US's one China policy, which is different to China's one China principle. The US's policy is that it does not have official diplomatic relations with Taiwan, and it does not support Taiwan independence. But Taiwan is already independent as the Republic of China, and from the very beginning, the US has insisted on only peaceful changes to Taiwan's status. Biden repeated that condition of a peaceful resolution again at the summit. Biden also told Xi that he does not expect to see any interference from China in Taiwan's upcoming elections. I think Beijing, Xi Jinping, they want much more from the US on Taiwan than that. He wants to see a halt to military cooperation and arms sales. He wants Biden to not merely say that he doesn't support Taiwan independence, but that he positively supports the unification of China and Taiwan. And those are non-starters with Washington. But if Xi could push Biden to make even a small concession or a minor shift in language, that would effectively be getting Biden to interfere in Taiwan's election. From the news that has come out so far, Biden has refused any such concessions, but apparently he did not reply to a question on whether the US will defend Taiwan. So that's being taken as possibly a bit of a concession to the Chinese position.
Right. There was also no agreement on Washington's export controls, though President Xi asked for policy changes. Was it an expected outcome? And even if so, with the meeting itself, eased some concerns in China amid foreign investment seemingly tapering off?
Yeah, well, certainly that was what I was expecting. Those export controls, they're not really going anywhere. They represent a major effort to coordinate with allies. They cause large disruptions to US and allied companies, and they're working, as you can see from how unhappy Beijing is about them. Both sides are trying hard to create a more friendly atmosphere, but I doubt it will change the foreign investment situation. You mentioned the Chinese economy is no longer what it was. Not only is the growth not there, but also there's just not the same opportunities for non-Chinese companies. The playing field is too tilted against them. Also, the risk of investing in China is now very high. Companies don't know what new controls either side could apply. They don't know what actions Beijing could take or what nationalistic consumer boycotts they might face. And foreign executives are even being arrested. And of course, the Ukraine war has been a wake-up call, with companies now hyper-aware that geopolitics must be factored into their investment decisions.
Well, but the two leaders agreed to resume military communication. Do you see this as a significant step toward easing tensions between the two countries moving forward?
Yeah, well, the Biden administration has been very vocal about the need for such guardrails to keep that competition within acceptable bounds. There have been an increasing number of dangerous encounters between Chinese military ships and planes with those of the US and its partners and allies. But I don't really see the agreement to resume military-to-military communications as that significant. Like North Korea, China has a long history of using these kind of communication channels and hotlines as leverage, and when there is a crisis, they don't pick up. Beijing only wants to reduce tensions and communicate if it sees the US moving in the right direction. If not, then it's back to pressure tactics. The US, of course, sees it very differently. Their experience with the Soviets mean they want agreed standards of behavior in place to avoid dangerous incidents that can escalate. But the reality, I think, is China is not interested in limiting its options in that way.
All right, Professor, we will have to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for your insight.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Moving on to Gaza, Israeli forces say they found an entrance to a Hamas tunnel at the Al-Shifa hospital and a body of a hostage near the site. This backing their claims that Hamas is using the hospital as a cover. This comes as they advance into the next phase of their ground invasion. Our Lee Soo-jin with the latest.
The Israel Defense Forces has said that it has found the body of an Israeli hostage in a tunnel shaft at the Al-Shifa hospital complex in Gaza City. According to the IDF, on Thursday local time, the Israeli military discovered the body of Yudit Weiss in a structure near Al-Shifa hospital.
The body of Judith, may her soul rest in peace, was recovered by our forces, the 7th Brigade, which was scanning the area by the Al-Shifa hospital. We recovered her body in one of the homes during the scanning. Near her body, we found bodies of terrorists who were holding Judith.
The 65-year-old woman was kidnapped by Hamas militants during the raid on southern Israel on October 7, when at least 1,200 people were killed and more than 200 were abducted. Her husband was also killed in the Hamas attack. The IDF also said that it had uncovered an entrance to a Hamas tunnel at the hospital, revealing videos and photographs of the tunnel shaft and weapons. It also said that a Hamas pickup truck similar to those used in the October 7 attacks was discovered carrying weapons near the tunnel entrance. This comes after Israeli troops raided the hospital Wednesday morning, searching the buildings and interrogating some people there. They say that Hamas has a military command center underneath the hospital. Israel's defense minister also supported this claim, saying the IDF's recent findings signal that there is significant underground infrastructure in the area.
I arrived today at the headquarters of the division whose special forces also operate inside Al-Shifa Hospital. There are significant findings there. The operation continues and it is done in a precise, selective, but very, very determined manner.
He did not specify what the significant findings were. The defense minister added that the IDF has taken control of the western part of Gaza City and that the army has now moved on to the next phase of its ground operation. 이수진, Arirang News.
The South Korean national football team kicked off their 2026 World Cup qualifications with a big win over Singapore. 5 different players got on the score sheet during last night's 5-0 win. Lee Seung-jae has more.
The South Korean national football team hammered Singapore 5-0 on Thursday night at the Seoul World Cup Stadium to begin its qualification journey to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. 5 different Taeguk warriors scored on the night, including Jo Kyu-sung, who netted the first goal of the match just before the end of the first half. A few minutes after the restart, Jo provided the assist for Wolverhampton striker Hwang Hee-chan's header for a 2-0 lead. South Korea's captain and Tottenham Hotspur striker Son Heung-min also got on the score sheet with a left-foot strike in the 63rd minute before Hwang Hee-jo scored from the penalty spot just 5 minutes later. PSG midfielder Lee Gang-in also got in on the action of scoring for South Korea, scoring in the 85th minute, his 3rd consecutive international goal to close out the convincing 5-0 win. With their first win under their belt, South Korea will now travel to Shenzhen to play China next Tuesday for the final World Cup qualifying match of 2023. The remaining Group C matches include a home and away series against Thailand in March 2024. The Taeguk Warriors will try to extend their World Cup appearance streak to 11, having competed at every World Cup since 1986. The 2026 World Cup will be co-hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and will be the first edition to feature 48 nations, up from the current 32-team format. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The first Korean version of the official guidebook to the Vatican Museums has been published. The Korean embassy in the Vatican made the announcement on Thursday, saying it is part of a project to commemorate 60 years of diplomatic relations between Korea and the Vatican. The guidebook has been available at bookstores within the Vatican Museums since Monday. In 2021, the embassy improved the Vatican Museum's Korean audio guide, but no official guidebook in Korean was available until now. The Vatican Museums can trace their history back over 500 years and feature a total of 70,000 works of art. South Korea's biggest sale event of the year is now underway. There are discount promotions for everything from groceries to home appliances and cars. Major cinemas are also included for the first time this year. Our Shin Ha-young reports.
South Korea's largest annual shopping festival, the Korea Sale Festa, is back again this year on a larger scale and for a longer period. About 2,500 companies are taking part in the Korea Sale Festa, the most ever. And this year's event has also been extended from 15 to 20 days to ensure that people can take advantage of lower prices. Marking its 9th year, there are discounts on a wide range of items from food and fashion to automobiles. Large supermarkets are offering up to a 50% discount and buy one get one free promotions on fresh produce, processed food, household goods, and more. With the kimchi making season underway, there have been discounts on kimchi making ingredients too. Hyundai Motor is offering discounts of up to 6 million won or around $4,500 on electric cars, while Kia Motors is offering discounts of up to 7 million won. LG Electronics has included 17 popular items such as dryers, dishwashers, and steam closets in the promotion, while Samsung Electronics has 16 items on discount, including TVs. Also, major cinemas are taking part for the first time, offering a 3,000 won discount on movie tickets.
It's great that there are a variety of discounted items, but it'd be even better if there were bigger discounts on daily necessities.
I use social media a lot, but I didn't know about this event. With prices going up these days, I hope there are good deals on kitchenware and bedding, especially for single-person households.
The government plans to stimulate consumer sentiment through the large-scale discount event. Private spending in the third quarter only rose by 0.3% compared to the previous quarter. Considering the decline in the second quarter, the domestic market is still relatively sluggish. However, experts say that the boost to consumer spending could be limited as the level of discounts is relatively lower than what's offered on China's Singles' Day and Black Friday in the U.S.
On Black Friday, manufacturers are the ones that cut prices, resulting in big discounts. But in Korea, unless manufacturers lower prices, relying solely on discounts from retailers may have limitations in encouraging consumers to open their wallets.
She added that the government should offer incentives to both retailers and manufacturers so that consumers can buy heavily discounted products. 신하영, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Kim Si-young, and we now turn over to stories from around the world. We begin in Spain, where Socialist Party leader Pedro Sánchez won a parliamentary vote on Thursday, giving him a second term as Spain's Prime Minister. Spain's Conservative Popular Party won the most seats in July's general election, but was unable to form a majority coalition. However, Sánchez secured a 4-seat majority to win 179 out of 350-seat chamber. The Prime Minister offered an amnesty deal to Catalan separatists to secure votes from the two Catalan pro-independence parties, which ultimately led to his victory in the parliament. While Sánchez told MPs that the amnesty deal would help heal wounds, Spain has seen mass protests against the measure, with polls revealing over 70% of Spaniards are against it. The amnesty protects hundreds of people who have already been penalized or face prosecution for an illegal push for independence for the Catalan region in 2017, and also covers the period from January 1st, 2012 to November 13th of this year. The UK's new Foreign Secretary David Cameron got straight down to business as he made his first official working visit to Ukraine. He met with President Volodymyr Zelensky and the country's foreign minister in Kyiv on Thursday. While Cameron pledged to continue Britain's long-term support for Ukraine in the meeting, there was no significant announcement or additional military or humanitarian aid. The UK spent somewhat $2.9 billion in 2022 on the defense of Ukraine in its war against Russia, with the same amount pledged for 2023. Whether that level of support will continue will be revealed next Wednesday when Britain's Chancellor of Exchequer makes his autumn statement. Now moving over to Asia, Cambodia on Thursday inaugurated its newest and biggest airport, the Siem Reap Angkor International Airport. The international airport, which began operations in October 16th, is located about 40 kilometers east of Angkor Wat and can handle 7 million passengers a year, with plans to increase the capacity to up to 12 million from 2040. The $1.1 billion Chinese-financed airport, which replaces the old airport in the region, aims to increase access to the country's main tourist attraction, the Angkor Wat Temple complex in Siem Reap. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet, as well as the Chinese ambassador to Cambodia and the governor of China's Yunnan province, were at the Thursday ceremony.
Good morning. What's up with the temperatures this season? It's mid-winter all of a sudden, and a sharp wind is making it feel colder. And highs in Seoul will only hike to 3 degrees this afternoon. And we'll have to wait till Sunday afternoon to see some relief from this strong cold snap. Sunny skies to start out the day, then it will get murky with precipitation. Meanwhile, the southwest coast and Jeju are seeing a mix of rain and snow right now, which will gradually spread nationwide as the day goes on today. So Seoul could also see the first snow of the season. Mountainous regions on Jeju could see up to 15 centimeters of snowfall. The rest of the country could see 1 to 5 centimeters during the day today, or 5 to 20 millimeters of rain in most places. Those of us in the upper parts of the country need to stay covered today. Seoul sees a high of 3 degrees, Chuncheon at just 4 degrees this afternoon. At least southern provinces will have highs in the teens this afternoon. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That is all for today. Thanks for watching.
Welcome. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? I'm live!
저를 도와주시는 분들이
저희와 함께 해주시는 세션분들
아무리 봐도 없지. 펜션 같은데 아니라고 아무도 안 하는 거고.
좋아요.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, who's mine? Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
Hello, I'm Ernei Müller, Ambassador of Slovenia to the Republic of Korea. Right now, I see Korea shining in the world. Korea has many strengths, and the global presence is already here. Slovenia will continue to establish the presence in the international scene. This is also one of the reasons why we opened the embassy in Korea last year. I always thank Arirang TV for playing a big role in promoting Korean information to the world so that many people can access Korean content and get to know all aspects of Korean culture. I hope that people around the world will continue to communicate and sympathize with Korea. Resonating the world, Arirang.
And the president also remains committed to boosting Korea's ties with its global partners on the sidelines of this latest.
To discuss the current security environment.
The United Nations most powerful body on global security, expressing hope stock markets around the world have taken a hit amid speculation that the US Federal Reserve
Arirang.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, look my way. Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
웰컴. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
We're here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's November 17th here in Seoul. I'm Yoon, and you're watching News Generation. Joining me in the studio is Brooke Prince.
Hello, nice to see you again.
Great to have you back here, Brooke. And Park Ki-hoon.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, let's start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. Our first story has to do with South Korea's main theme park, Everland, and its iconic panda, Fubao. This 3-year-old baby panda tried escaping from his pen a few days back, and local news outlets described his escape attempt as a rampage. Fubao crossed over his fence and then tried eating the ornamental bamboo sticks. Because of him, visitors had to wait outside the area for an extra 20 to 30 minutes. Everland is now fixing the broken fences. Until then, Fubao won't be able to greet visitors outdoors. And moving on, Korea is still a far way back from going completely plastic-free to save the environment. Earlier this month, the government has decided to extend its grace period for banning all plastic straws used at cafes or restaurants. This has enraged paper straw manufacturers who said they were left with around 200 million unused products that would soon go to waste. These manufacturers are now demanding the government to specify when their grace period will end so they can reboot their machines. And last but not least, a Chinese law firm is soon to open a local branch in North Korea. The Beijing-based law firm called Jinx announced last week that it would expand its services to North Korea. It explained that the expansion is only natural as China borders the reclusive North Korean regime. And the Pyongyang office aims to advise North Koreans on matters like foreign direct investment and intellectual property rights. Jinx also aims to use its Pyongyang branch as a legal advisor to the North Korean government and foreign enterprises. Now, its plans come amid Pyongyang resuming rail freight and flight services with Beijing, and for the first time in more than 3 years that North Korea has also reopened its borders to foreigners. It had shut them due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So there's no doubt that North Korea is becoming an attractive business or investment area for China at the moment. Now, here in the studio, Ki-hoon, what do you think is the biggest catch regarding North Korea for investors at the moment?
Yeah, just like you said, North Korea is definitely a blue ocean in terms of its abundance of resources and, of course, cheap labor. So obviously, China being its neighboring country has taken this opportunity, China being China. But whereas in South Korea, I don't think South Korea ever saw North Korea as like a trading partner in terms of business. So unless the two Koreas reunite in the near future, maybe they can become, I guess, business partners. But I'm not sure how the China and North Korea relations will directly help the global market as of now. But I mean, if it does look positive moving forward, I may invest in North Korea one day. Who knows?
Who knows? It'll take a long time, but who knows? And these hypotheticals, I often say with my friends as well, if we ever unite with South and North ever reunites, I think, as you mentioned, the cheap labor and the blue ocean can pose a really good opportunity for people to actually start a business there.
That's right.
But then that, as I mentioned before, it's going to be way down into the future. But at the moment, China is using this opportunity, right? What do you think about that?
Well, I think North Korea is an appealing option to Chinese investors because obviously the geographical proximity, there's a lack of competition, and there have also been changes to the foreign investment law that have made investment more attractive. But I also think there is an element of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So we've seen China deepening its ties with North Korea and Russia as well, which notoriously have not had the best diplomatic relations with the U.S. So I do think that this is kind of a strategic move on China's part to invest more in North Korea.
Right. It's really interesting to find out like how economics and politics are all intertwined.
Exactly.
And, yeah, that was our news feed for this Friday. Switching gears to our main discussion topic of the day. Just a few days ago, Hyungwon from K-pop boy band Monsta X officially entered the military to fulfill his duties as an able-bodied Korean male. Here in Korea, all men aged between 18 and 35 must serve at least 18 months as part of their mandatory military service. Now, Monsta X's Hyungwon is joining a long list of Korean celebrities who have had to put the brakes on their career to do their duty for their country. My AI voice secretary will explain more about today's topic in detail.
Here in Korea, going to the military is thought to be synonymous with fulfilling your duties as able-bodied man. If you're a Korean citizen and male, doing military service for at least 18 months is a must. There's hardly any exceptions or ways you can get out of it. The only ways out are if you have a physical disorder or a handicap, or if you're considered a valuable arts and sports asset recognized by the Culture, Sports and Tourism Ministry, such as by winning a gold medal at the Asian Games, medal at the Olympics, or a Grand Prix at certain music competitions. Ever since BTS has shaken up the global pop industry, there has been a rising debate as to whether a pop star could qualify for this exemption standard.
Many lawmakers have pointed to this dilemma as well, whether it's the best idea to send to the military a popular cultural asset like K-pop stars or actors that bring in astronomical amounts of money and promote their artistic or musical talent globally. And recently, Chairman of the Innovation Committee of the ruling People Power Party, Yoon, specifically pointed to how BTS should have been exempt. As of now, 3 of the 7 members have been enlisted, and that's Jin, Suga, and J-Hope. And this specific lawmaker lauded BTS for promoting K-culture and the country's national image around the world. But at the same time, he expressed his frustration towards mandatory military conscription, causing a hiatus in an artist's relatively short-lived success streak and hampering their efforts in promoting Korea's image abroad. And we're going to be talking more on this front. Before we do so, though, why don't you guys walk us through on the latest batch of Korean celebrities that had to put the brakes on their career to join the military?
Sure. There's actually quite a list of K celebrities who are serving their time in the military as of now. Monsta X members Kiyeon, Minhyuk, and Chuwon, GOT7's Jinyoung, and even actor Nam Joo-yeok. And of course, the BTS members, Jin, Suga, and J-Hope. But I just want to say there has been a slight change in Korean male celebrities' attitudes towards enlisting in the army compared to the past. In the past, many were quite reluctant and they would delay it as much as they could and even find ways to kind of avoid full-time service in the army to be listed as a part-time public service worker or 공익 근무요원 in Korea. But nowadays, we're seeing more celebrities actually take the initiative and go into the army as soon as they can once they receive the notice of military duty. And because it's a very sensitive topic to all able men in Korea within that age group, I think these celebrities, they made the right decision. And also, image is a big factor, whether they make it or break it. So I think it not only does it appeal to a lot of women fans out there, but also for men.
Exactly.
They will have, I guess, a better image towards men as well.
Oh, and didn't we talk about this when we talked about Steve Yu, remember?
We did, yeah.
You were a big fan, but then once he decided not to go to the military by suddenly becoming a U.S. citizen, that caused a lot of controversy here in the country. And as Yoon mentioned, celebrities all have to live with a great reputation in order for their success streak to keep on going. But I do think this is a relatively unique concept here in Korea. So I'm curious as to how American fans or Western fans are viewing Korean celebrities joining the military.
Well, we've already talked about a lot of K-pop artists, but for me, someone that I was kind of waiting with bated breath to see if they would go or not was Faker from T1 for any League of Legends fans out there. And recently he was exempted because of the winning the Asian Games. So a lot of people were wondering, well, if that leads to an exemption, BTS, they were nominated for Grammys. How come they weren't exempted? And I know my family was very, very shocked to find out that BTS was just going to disappear for a while, because this is a group that's been on their TV screen for the past few years. They're a global sensation. So I think a lot of people that aren't familiar with the law or the culture here think, well, of course they're just going to keep going, right? They're superstars. Why would they stop at this point? But that is the law here in Korea. All able-bodied men must enlist prior to turning 28. Now, thanks to BTS, the law was amended so that you can postpone until you are 30 years of age. But I found out that it's actually not that easy to do. You have to get a very special recommendation letter. So I think most celebrities here are going to enlist before they get to the age of 28. And like Ki-hoon mentioned, it actually really benefits your image to do so. I think there would be a lot of backlash if they decided not to. So they're definitely seen favorably for fulfilling that duty to their country.
Exactly, and given that military conscription is relatively a local concept here in South Korea, we asked what our global viewers had to say on today's topic and whether they were quite curious as to how their favorite K-pop celebrity or K-pop actor is doing. So take a look at the screen to find out what our viewers were curious about in regards to today's discussion topic. Let's see what Lee said. Lee said, I think it's really great that male K-pop stars are doing their military service just like everyone else. I'm from Singapore and we have national service in the military too, and some guys try to avoid their NS by remaining overseas. With K-pop stars setting an example, perhaps this attitude could change. Tasmia said, why from Golden Child is currently serving in the military? My question will be, what are you not allowed to eat while serving in the military? Savage Cat said, yes, 3 members of BTS are in the military. Kim Seok-jin, Jung Ho-seok, Min Yoon-gi. I want to know, are they safe? And now we're going to dedicate this time to answer our viewers' questions as to how their favorite K-pop artist or K-drama actor is doing in the military or what they could expect. So, Ki-hoon, how exactly are celebrities spending their time in the military these days?
The military has become another stage for these celebrities to perform and communicate with their fans in some sense. Nowadays, everyone is allowed to use their smartphones in the army base, so they are always connected and they communicate online with their fans through fan cafes. And others join the military band by playing instruments, singing, and even emceeing in these events held within the army bases. And unlike before, the fans continue to have this sense of connection even when they're in the army through different media outlets like YouTube. So some celebrities, they shoot the personal vlogs beforehand, before coming into the army, and they upload it one by one while they're in the army. So they always have that sense of connection and fans can always communicate with them, and it really doesn't feel like they're actually separated. And also finally, fans Photoshop each meal on a food tray and upload their daily menus, their favorite stars eat in the army, as you can see on the screen. And these are just like from information given in text through the Ministry of National Defense. And this somewhat unique uploading of food tray photos has become a new fandom activity. And we're seeing many fans from overseas follow this so-called food tray account. to find out more about not only what their favorite celebrities are eating, but also more about like K-military food.
Yeah.
So,
I think this fandom culture really has to do with fans being so curious about how their oppa is doing in the military, right? Would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, I have to say this was all quite new to me, the fan culture for when someone is in the military, because in the U.S. it's been 50 years since we have had a conscription-based military. We are now fully volunteer-based. So I was very surprised when I saw the fan culture here. I know people wait for their performances. I remember there were a few viral clips of them dancing to Hype Boy. So I think they do try and stay on top of the K-pop trends as much as possible. And I think that makes it less of a sad, lonely time while they're there. I actually first found out about military service in Korea when I was teaching English to high school students. And the thing that shocked me the most was finding out that they actually interrupt their college studies most of the time to complete their service. They might do a year of school and then do their service and then come back and finish it. And in the US, we kind of glorify the college days, the college experience. So it kind of hurt my heart a little bit to find out that they would have to stop that in order to do something that wasn't really their choice. So I think for both ordinary people, ordinary students, and for celebrities, it kind of feels like you're put on pause. But I'm very glad to hear that there are some efforts being made to improve the connection to the outside world so they don't feel so isolated.
Exactly, that's a very good point. And speaking of that pause, we're now going to find out how Korean celebrities, their mandatory military enlistment could affect their career, and how in the long run it can actually shape the Korean pop or entertainment fandom culture, especially to those abroad. We'll include an expert in our talks to hear her own insights. We're now going to include an assistant professor of Korean culture at Arizona State University in our talks. It's Professor Chung Adam. Welcome, Professor Chung.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
All right, Professor Chung, I'd like to ask you the first question. Optimistically speaking, I think one of the unique aspects of being a K-pop fan around the world is to experience what it's like being kumsin. And this is a Korean phrase referring to waiting for your boyfriend or significant other who went to the military. And I would like to ask, how has Korea's mandatory military service affected K-pop and K-drama fandom culture, especially among foreign fans?
Yes, that is a very optimistic way of putting it. I don't know if I would call it a perk, but yes, due to K-pop's and K-drama's global popularity, now more and more fans are aware of Korea's mandatory military service. And this means that there's now a significantly larger number of fans who are paying attention to the geopolitical conditions surrounding the Korean peninsula. And by paying attention to these issues, this can actually contribute to foreign fans having a kind of global awareness towards other cultures as well.
Hi, Professor. I have another question for you. So how do you think mandatory military service affects the artist-fan relationship in particular? And also, how does it affect an artist's career?
In many ways, I think it might affect the artist more than the fans, because being at a certain age, or actually just being young, could be very important for an artist's career. And so by enlisting in the military for almost 2 years, you're putting your career at hold at a very critical time. So I would imagine that these artists would have some kind of pressure while they're serving in the military. And regarding artist-fan relationships, like Yoon mentioned, there are actually many artists who would film vlogs or some kind of content before serving so that they can surprise their fans once in a while. And also many fans perform activities to cheer and support their favorite artists. Like there are social media accounts and websites that count the days until they are discharged. There are fan accounts that upload the menus of their daily meals. And also I've also seen smartphone apps where you can actually send letters to these artists while they're serving in the military.
Professor Chung, on a different note, then where do you stand on the issue of exempting some K-pop artists or celebrities from mandatory military service?
So currently, like you said, athletes or artists who have seemed to promote some kind of national prestige can be exempted from the military. But currently, K-pop doesn't have a concrete or objective standard to measure this kind of prestige that they're bringing. And personally, I do think that K-pop artists bring a large impact, similar prestige through their global popularity. But unless we find some way to measure this kind of prestige, I don't really see K-pop artists getting exempted from the military anytime soon. Some might say that maybe winning a Grammy or some kind of international award could suffice, but then many others could argue that, well, if we put some importance or weight on just one particular award, that could also be problematic because then that means K-pop is seeking validation from the West, and I think we're kind of way past that. So I think we still have much to discuss about this kind of matter.
Professor Jung, before I let you go, I have one more question. What do you think about, there's a lot of controversy on the domestic front as to whether celebrities are receiving special treatment. Like for entertainment agencies, it's always best that they don't have a hiatus. As we mentioned before, they should always be interacting with fans. So recently, BTS's J-Hope was canceled from attending like a cooking contest where he would MC. But then people said, is that special treatment? Should an entertainer or a K-pop artist be able to do that type of activity while in the military? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's an extension of K-pop fans and artists interacting, or should we just scrap that as a whole?
That's a very interesting question. I'm actually not sure, but I think there's also this idea of fairness and also fulfilling one's responsibility as a Korean national in Korean society, which is very important. So if Korean celebrities are receiving some kind of special treatment in the military, that could also create a lot of controversy.
It's all about fairness at the end of the day, and it's such a complicated issue that we still need to have a lot more discussions on. But thank you so much, Professor Jung. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the whole aspect of today's discussion has to do with it being a whole year and a half. A year and a half is definitely a long time for fans to wait for their favorite K-pop celebrities or K-actors to come back on screen. But it's the law here in Korea. Officials are well aware that not just celebrities, but all able-bodied Korean men are committing their prime years of their life for the country. And that's why they've been trying to improve their conditions. So what are some efforts that we've seen so far made on this front?
The service period has definitely reduced to 18 months, where it used to be almost like 3 years a long time ago. And also the monthly wage is steadily increasing. So I heard like when my dad went to the army, he obviously didn't receive any money. And even on top of that, the barracks, the military barracks where everyone just uses as a community center, it's become so much more comfortable. They have air conditioning, air purifiers.
They used to not have air conditioning?
No, nothing.
Oh, no.
And even bidet. They have like these special, not special, like high-class toilets. So I mean, like what I heard from my dad, he would always say, back in the day we had it so much harder. You guys
walk
have it
uphill both ways.
Yeah, exactly. But now I think it's become so much more soldier-friendly in some sense.
Yeah, they're trying to improve living conditions for soldiers. What about you?
Well, I mentioned earlier that I was a little worried about my students going into the military service, but I do think that they probably gained a lot of positive things from the experience, because the military does try to instill things like self-sufficiency, teamwork, self-development. So I think if you go into it with that mindset of wanting to grow from it, you will get rewarded. I know that Chinese Taemin, in his first interview when he got out of the military, he actually had very positive things to say about the experience. He said that even though it was difficult to be away from his fans and everything, he learned a lot, and he learned the ways of life. He became a stronger person. So I do think there are positives, but I've enjoyed the discussion today, and I'm curious to see what changes might come down the road in terms of mandatory military service.
Exactly. This is an issue that we'll continue discussions on, but in the meantime, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Brooke Prince.
Thank you. Had a great time.
Awesome. And Park Ki-hoon.
It's always a pleasure.
All right. And thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next week. We are News Generation.
Welcome. 24시간 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
Children's laughter, hope, dream.